Hello guys, welcome all of you back with our web application development discussion series. Today we are going to discuss about how we can program this feedback sending process. After buying the product, the relevant product details will be appeared in our purchase history web page. From here we can click on this feedback button to send a feedback about this bought product. When we click on this feedback button, it's going to pop up this feedback sending model. From here, that user can select whether this feedback is a positive one, neutral one or negative one. Then here we have inserted that user's email address and then we have given a text area to print the feedback. After filling these fields, that user can click on this save feedback button. Then it's going to give us a alert saying feedback sending successful. When we click on this OK button, it's going to reload this page. So now our feedback has been successfully added into our database. If we go and look into our feedback table, here you can see our feedback has been successfully added into our feedback table. So let's go into our code and see how we have programmed this. Here we have our purchasing history.php file. Within this file, here we have our two buttons as feedback and delete. We have used this feedback button to send a feedback about the bought product. In this button, here we have inserted a on-click function as add feedback. And within the opening and closing bracket of this function, we have printed the PHP script and we have said to print product ID from invoice data variable within this opening and closing bracket. So when we click on this button, it's going to execute this function and the selected product ID will also be forwarded into our script.js file. Then after that button, here we have our model as add new feedback. And we have used this model in order to get the user's feedback input. And we have given it the ID as feedback model and then we have concatenated the product ID into this ID name. Within this model, here we have given an area to select whether this feedback is a positive one, neutral one or negative one. And to take the input, here we have inserted 3 input fields and we have given those input field type as radio and we have also given its ID as type 1, type 2 and type 3. After taking the feedback time, in here we have inserted that user's email address into this input field. After that part, here we have inserted the area to enter that user's feedback and we have given a text area for that and we have also given an ID as feedback. Then at the bottom of this model, here we have our two buttons as close and save feedback. When we click on this close button, it's going to close this sending feedback model and the feedback won't be saved in our database. If the user click on this save feedback button, it's going to save that feedback in our database. And within this save feedback button, here we have called a function as save feedback. And within the opening and closing bracket of this save feedback function, we have printed a PHP script and we have said to print that product ID. So first, let's look into this add feedback function. In our script.js file, here we have our add feedback function. First, we have created a global variable as m. After that, here we have created our function and within the opening and closing bracket of this function name, we have taken the forwarded value from our purchasing history.php file and we have stored that value in variable id. Then within the function, here we have taken the element which id is equal to feedback model and we have also concatenated the product id and we have stored that element in variable feedback model. After that, in the next line, here we have defined that feedback model variable value as a bootstrap model and we have stored that value in variable m. And in the next line, we have said to show that model in our web page. So after executing this last line, the feedback inputting model will be displayed in our web page. So now let's look into our save feedback function. Here we have our set feedback function and within the function name opening and closing bracket, we have taken the forwarded value from purchasing history.php file and we have stored that value in variable id. Within this function, here we have created the variable as type. Then next, here we have inserted the if-else-if ladder. In here, we have taken the element which id is equal to type 1 and we have checked whether this element has been checked or not. If this condition is true, then here we have assigned type value as 1. If this condition is false, then here we have checked whether the element which id is equal to type 2 has been checked or not. If this condition is true, then we have assigned type value as 2. If this condition is false, then here we have checked whether the element which id is equal to type 3 has been checked or not. If this condition is true, here we have assigned type value as 3. After this if-else-if ladder, here we have taken the element which id is equal to feed and we have assigned that element in variable feedback. After that, here we have created the form and we have appended these values using these names into our form. After creating the form, here we have created the new request and we have stored that request in variable r. Then here we have checked whether the request state has been changed or not. If the state has been changed, here we have called a function and within this function we have checked whether the requested state is equal to 4 or not. If this condition is true, then here we have taken the response from our server and we have stored that value in variable t. After that, we have checked whether the t value is equal to 1 or not. If it's equal to 1, here we have given a alert as feedback sent in successful. And then here we have hide that feedback input in model. And after that, from this line, we have reloaded this page. If the response value is not equal to 1, then in here we have printed that response in an alert. After the function, here we have defined our request method as post and we have given the destination file as save feedback process.php. In the last line, we have sent that request into save feedback process.php file and we have embedded our form into this request. So let's go into our save feedback process.php file. Within our save feedback process.php file, here we have inserted a PHP script. Within this PHP script, here we have started the session. And then here we have imported our connection.php file into this save feedback process.php file. After that, from here we have checked whether this user is logged into our website or not. If this condition is true, then we have executed these codes. First, we have taken that user's email address and we have stored that value in variable mail. Then we have taken the PID value which has been sent through our form and we have stored that value in variable PID. Then we have also taken the variable t value from our request and we have stored that value in variable type. Then we have taken the feed variable value from our request and we have stored that value in feedback variable. Then in the next line we have taken the current date time and we have stored that value in variable d. Then in here we have taken the user's time zone and we have stored that value in variable tz. Then in the next line we have set this time zone into this date and time. After that, from here we have formatted that date and time into this format and we have stored that format in variable data. After creating the date and time, we have run a insert query and we have said insert into feedback table and here we have given the column names of our table and then here we have given the values as $type variable value, $feedback variable value, $date variable value, $PID variable value and $mail variable value. After executing this insert query, here we have given a response as 1. So this response is going to go into our script.js file. So let's go into our script.js file. Within our function, from here we have taken the response from our server and we have stored that value in variable t. Then we have checked whether the t value is equal to 1 or not. If it's equal to 1, we have given an alert as feedback send is successful, and then we have hide our feedback adding model and we have reloaded the page. If this condition is false, then here we have printed that response in an alert. So guys, that's all for today. Thanks all of you for joining with me. See you in the next video.